Hey, everybody. Happy snow day. Happy Friday. I'm so glad that you're here. And I hope you're getting ready for a great day today. I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert and a shiatsu massage therapist. And what I do is I help women navigate all those toxic narcissistic relationships, which they tend to find themselves in because as the world gets crazier, people have a harder and harder time with things like anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, chemical imbalances, gut imbalances, pain management, and all of that brings out people's coping skills, their unhealthy coping skills. And when those unhealthy coping skills, when that person becomes so uncomfortable, whether it's you or somebody else, I mean, it totally could be you. When you get that uncomfortable, when somebody else gets that uncomfortable, what can happen is they get to the point where it's complete fight or flight. It's me or you, and it's not going to be me, sort of attitude and mindset. And so the more anxiety and pressure that people are under and the more technology that we have, a lot of these emotions and ways of dealing with things that are destructive rather than productive and supportive and constructive, are really coming to the fore and ripping a lot of relationships apart. When in reality, if we take a breath, if we take a pause, and we start to look deeper, we might discover that many times underneath a lot of that toxic and narcissistic behavior is something like anxiety or depression or pain or a health issue or something else, which is causing someone to behave in a way that is like a panic attack. Almost, I mean, if we almost think about it, a narcissist attack is a version of them going through a panic attack. And so, just like when you're going through a panic attack, you're not able to focus or pay attention to or be aware of anything else going on but the fact that you were in the middle of crisis. So let's start looking at it this way a little bit. That when someone is when a narcissist or toxic person in your life is having an overwhelming, scary, angry, manipulative, controlling sort of energy around them, think a little bit deeper about where it might be coming from. And it might be coming from the fact that their brain was just triggered into a fight or flight reaction. And then everything they have associated with that, they're in crisis mode. And so not everybody, but you know what, often enough, especially the stuff that's scariest. So a while ago, when I first got my shiatsu massage training, I was in a massage and there was a gentleman that I wasn't comfortable getting a massage from. He was one of the students we were practicing. And so I stopped it. And then I went to my mentor and I said, how should I have handled it? And they said, when you become a victim, when you let yourself be victimized by not saying anything and not doing anything and not standing up for yourself, you're turning somebody else into a bully. You're turning them into a narcissist. You're turning them into a toxic person. Because what we've done with many people who are in that state of crisis, like a panic attack, is they trigger us and everything just sorts of spirals down and it gets uglier and brutal and emotionally difficult, and then it starts to become usually physically difficult. When we allow ourselves to be hurt in any way by people who are in the middle of a crisis, we are not doing them or us any favors. We're not doing it right. We're not doing it wrong. So one of the things we want to look out for is if we look at episodes or experiences as panic attacks and not as just vicious emotional attacks on us, that they were waiting, just waiting, pacing back and forth to release this energy. If we recognize that their anxiety or their frustration or their overwhelm is starting to get a little bit much by the language they use or how they speak or the energy coming off of them, there are some tools that that you can encourage them to do, and they're the same tools that you use for anxiety. So let's look at it this way. When someone is triggered, let's say a narcissist, they go from the rational mind to their amygdala, to the fight or flight, and that controls everything. So the key is we want to break them out of that pain pattern of the amygdala. We need to snap them out of the amygdala and back into their rational mind where they can think clearly and they can calm down and they aren't in that place of complete and utter panic. Here's some ways you can do that. One is when someone has an off comment to you, you can do something like ask them a question or change the subject. Because what that does is it gets them out of the amygdala brain and back into the rational mind. It helps shift directions. It helps change which neurons are firing and gets them out of that pattern and that spiral of then becoming more and more angry and vicious and in a state of crisis. So that's one way. If you notice something coming, try changing the subject. Now, I struggled with this one a lot because I thought, well, does that mean that I'm not honoring their feelings? That I'm not recognizing how they feel? And maybe, just maybe I deserve this. Maybe I did something. Maybe I need to accept this. Maybe that's what makes me a good person or a good woman. What if it doesn't? What if what makes you a good person and a good woman is someone who helps someone that they love not feel so distraught and in crisis? And the way that we can do that is by changing the subject or asking a different question. Now, that might not work. I totally get that. They may like pick up on that and use that to beat you over the head with. I completely understand that. But the thing we're looking at is how do we, what body mind tools get us out of fight or flight and back into the rational mind? So one is changing the subject. Two is changing the environment. When I'm anxious, if I'm hot, I do something that makes me feel cold. If I'm cold, I do something that makes me feel hot. If I'll drink hot water, I'll drink cold water. I'll go inside, I'll go outside, I'll take a shower, I'll take a bath, I'll start walking. I'll eat some chocolate. I'll do something that is sensory different than what is going on to get me out of that fight or flight pattern. Something that gives me a different state of reality. So we base how we think and our reality and what we see on 6 bits of information, when in reality, I mean, truthfully, we're picking up hundreds of thousands of bits of information all the time. And from 6 of those, we make the decision about what's real and true and what's not. And so when you can change the 6 that someone is focusing on, it can change their energy. It can shift them out of a potential episode or panic attack and into something that's a little bit more level and rational, and you can work through it. So you not only can help them get out of someone that you care about, get out of crisis, but it doesn't mean you're not honoring their feelings. You can honor their feelings when they're out of crisis. If you try to honor their feelings while they're in crisis, it's just going to make it worse. It's going to last for forever because then they'll be like, I was right. It's not just a movement of energy. It's also a fear. It's a nervous system based fear that many people end up going into. And so validating or taking it or even fighting back is proof, to the person who's having that panic attack that everything is terrifying and they have to protect themselves at all costs. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't get mad and that you're some Zen monk. What it means is you come at this from a little bit bigger perspective. Like, what can I do right now that can shift the energy? Another thing you can do is take 3 deep breaths, you or they. And if you start taking deep breaths, then they're more likely to start taking deep breaths too, or to suggest to them that they take 3 deep breaths. Because when you take 3 deep breaths, it tells your body to get out of the amygdala and back into your rational mind. It does a scan of the body and it helps make that switch. So if you're noticing someone is starting to get agitated, they're starting to say things, they're starting to be confrontational, and you normally want to go into, no, and now your own PTSD and your own struggles around it. But if you take a pause and say, I wonder what's causing, you don't even have to know why. You don't even have to know what triggered them. You just have to say, what can we do right now to get them out of this trigger, to get them out of it? And taking it, encouraging it, blaming, creating it into a spiral, adding your own anger and energy into that connection and field between you, that makes it worse. You being calm takes your stuff out of that energy field, so that the other person, there isn't so much charge between the two of you. And then when you can help them flip the switch back from amygdala to rational mind, and you don't have to do it, forcefully, like, I need you to take 3 breaths, take 3 breaths now, you need to go outside. You can, that might be effective. That might be so different from what they ever expect from you that it flips them out. It's kind of like taking those paddles, that you shock somebody's heart. That's what you want to do. You want to shock them, change the pattern, change the experience enough. And you can use shock and awe. I mean, if you listen and work with Tony Robbins at all, you notice that he swears an awful lot, and he uses it strategically because swearing draws people attention to something else. And so he'll swear quite a bit when he's doing his programming, and it's done for the emotional. So something lands deeper emotionally. So sometimes you may strategically, swear in order to snap them out of it. That's why people used to slap other people in the face when they were hysterical. That's why they used to, smelling salts and all sorts of things. The whole point, and that's what makes essential oils really good too, is it snaps you out. It's a different scent. It's a different part of your brain. The whole goal is to get you out of your amygdala and back into your rational mind. And if someone is starting fight and flight, hence the fight that they're giving you, then they are trapped in their amygdala. And you can help yourself and them if you can stay grounded enough to help them switch railway lines, switch where their brain is, and get them out of the amygdala. Sensory, the 3 deep breaths, tapping, if you're familiar with EFT, EMDR, that gets you into different sides of your brain. That's one of the reasons it's so effective. It gets you into different parts of your brain. So we need to get out of the energy we're in and somehow into a different energy, and that can come from you. That can come from you having a calming energy. That can come from you having a dramatic energy. That can come from you leaving abruptly. That can come from you swearing at them unexpectedly. That can come from a loud noise, even. I would imagine that a loud noise might, create that shift, that little bit of a shock to get them out of the situation. So think about it like that, and don't go, well, I tried it and it didn't work. Part of it is you learning the person that you're with, learning the person that you care about, and finding out, what sorts of things do calm them down, what sorts of things do break them out of the pattern. And if, trying to get them to do something sometimes is too much, but you can set things up. And then once you set things up and you help them get back into their rational place more and more often, you can help them learn tools for themselves. When you're feeling this way, you might want to do this. Because bullies, to come back to my story, bullies do not want to be bullies usually. They're reacting out of a strong sense of self-preservation that we all have. And so sometimes, yes, you are very narcissistic, because we all go into those places. We all, especially with the high level of anxiety we're all in. So, that's normal and natural. We have to start looking at each other with compassion and love, and look at them as mental health issues that we might be able to support them through. And the more you know, really, the more you know, the easier it gets for you. So the other message, though, is if you are being destroyed, if you're being ripped apart, you are no help to the other person. You're not supposed to sacrifice yourself to them. You're not supposed to let yourself get ripped apart. If you can be there and stay comfortable and present and out of your fight or flight, then you might be able to be helpful. But if you can't, then it's just going to feed all of that energy in there. It really, really will. And so start looking at it as in, what can you control in the engagement, and what can you help the other person get back control over themselves? So I want you to think about all those things and sort of process them and work through it and start maybe experimenting with things and talking about it with people and start seeing that, hey, this works and this doesn't work. And I like this and I don't like that. And let's try this over here. And wow, this brings me down pretty regularly. Maybe the smell of frankincense does it for you. Maybe the smell of eucalyptus does it for them. Maybe a cup of strong tea or vinegar or apple cider vinegar, or maybe really cold water or really hot water. It's one of the reasons that tea is so comforting, is because of the warmth that changes our temperature. You know, a shower, a bath, looking at something different, putting our focus someplace else. All of those things help get us out of fight or flight and back into a grounded mindset. And if you can help the person who is in crisis, which is probably the narcissist, and if you endure it, it will soon be you, then you'll both be in crisis. You know, if you can maintain and have that calm groundedness to help guide them through this experience, you might be successful. Now, this might not work with everybody, you know, but this is how the brain works. And so I want you to start looking at this and exploring these things as an option. How can you help the people that you care about or that impact your life stay more level? And how do you help teach them, you know, the skills that they need to stay more level too? And since you've been dealing with the anxiety of a narcissist for a while, you should theoretically be good at this. If you're not good at it, you need to start being good at it. You need to start learning how to take care of yourself, learning how to get your needs met, learning how to get yourself out of fight or flight back into a balanced place, whatever it may take. You're an individual, a unique individual, but there's a lot of tools out there, and you just need to start trying them and finding the ones that alone or in combination help you out. And so does the narcissist. If you look at them and you know that they've got love and value and care, and that they're bigger than the crisis that they seem to be in. Okay, let's stop looking at it as in that we have to be afraid of the world, and let's start looking at each other as if we're sick and we need to help support one another through this. Okay, so if you feel stuck, if you need skills, if you need community, if you need information, if you need deep dive, if you need one-on-one coaching, reach out, send me a message. We've got this wonderful women's group that we do every week, and we're starting to, within the next month or so, put it out into more of the public. Okay, so I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.